Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is the Maura series. This is the live Q&A 5th edition, going over all the latest information in an open Q&A format here. We're going to go over the UMass police records, Amherst PD records. Some of these are actually not new. Some of them have been released for a bit. But we'll go over Rener, vindicated at every turn in this case, apparently. We'll see how many of the early rumors turn out to be true yet again, despite the Dunning-Kruger crowd's vehemence that it was all made up nothing. And yet, time and time again, not just in this case, but in many other cases, it turns out the early rumors had veracity. I am, of course, your host, Bruce McGuire, and if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help logic and reason return to true crime and keeping up awareness in these cases and getting them solved. Cold cases, missing persons cases, wrongful convictions, of which there are so many, and more. You can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. If you're not getting updates through YouTube, you can join even the free tier on Patreon. We'll get you all your updates. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. Unless, of course, you are with us here live. In which case, drop them in the live chat, and I will try to get to all of them. So we have Clark in the chat here, who is an eyewitness to Maura Murray, cited her at West Point. Clark is a West Point professor, although he didn't start until after Maura had already left West Point. You can check out the previous episodes for his testimony. Seems quite legitimate from what we've seen here, and also he's been participating in many other chats, and so he's not here for attention on the Maura Murray case or whatever. He's an active participant on a variety of topics here, and he seems to be quite genuine. So, again, I would not have said that, obviously, on day one, because I didn't really know. But he's been around for a while. And, yeah, there's really been no evidence to the contrary. Clark in the chat says, I spoke at length with James Rener recently. And I believe he said, Clark, you said you reported your sighting to Rener quite some time ago as well. And I was emailing Rener, and he told me initially he didn't really know what to think about your sighting, although I don't know where in the timeline this is, because Rener originally believed that she was traveling with a tandem driver and she staged her disappearance to some capacity and was living elsewhere, either in Canada or somewhere else. Now, he apparently no longer believes that. Walking in 4K, yeah, we're going to go over Rener's podcast here, and Clark says, I don't think she would have... Okay, hold on. Let me go through these in order. Pinto Sack says, seems that Fred Murray is a liar. At first, he said that it was likely that Maura was depressed and or suicidal. Nowadays, he says the complete opposite. So I actually went over this angle on this. So I don't know if I would call Fred Murray a liar, per se. I mean, I think he's probably omitted a certain amount of information on quite a few different things. Whether it was the 4K, buying the new car, whatever. Many things. I don't know if I would call the man a liar, though. Is it possible either another family member, Kathleen or whoever, or a police officer, whoever, is it possible, or Billy even, someone else told him she was suicidal, and he basically was going off of that information, not necessarily that that's what he believed. Also, when a missing family member has gone missing, you panic emotionally. I mean, you go through... I mean, would anybody blame the guy? I mean, yeah, most of the time family members say they would never do that, but that their family member that had gone missing would never commit suicide. But, you know, the smarter they are, and I don't think Fred Murray is a stupid man by any stretch of the imagination, you gotta at least, those are at least running through your mind to a certain extent. All different scenarios. She was kidnapped. She left of her own volition because they were telling her, please come home or whatever. We can solve this. Fred Murray was pleading with her for that. So he might have also thought, I mean, again, an emotional family member could hold conflicting, mutually exclusive beliefs at the same time because they don't know what happened. So yeah, I wouldn't call him a liar. Clark says the totality of the UMass reports, in my opinion, reinforced the idea that Maura was planning to go away / possibly suicide. See, the whole suicide thing, it seems like that was being staged for her. Or I guess you can go by a theory by her. Because they had the book, bookmarked at that particular suicide chapter or whatever. It was all too convenient, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of convenient. It seems like it was all staged for the gullible. Now, you could say Maura herself was possibly staging it, but again, I haven't seen anything conclusive to show that Maura's actions were her own, whether it was the emails or the calls or whatever. But maybe they were. Again, I don't claim anything is true or untrue. This is, of course, Mindshock, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. If you weren't there, you don't know what happened. You don't know who was on Maura's computer. You weren't there. You don't know who was using her email. I mean, Billy apparently had all her passwords. Apparently he was checking her voicemail. So, okay, Fred said as much when he first saw the way she left her dorm room, or someone else left her dorm room, or if she was even living there in the first place. Of course, she might have been staying off campus. Fred does not look good in these reports, in my opinion. Yeah, he might not look good. Yeah, but, again, I don't know if I would put that in the same category as being intentionally deceptive. Pinto Sack says, what would she have been doing at West Point campus when you saw her? Surely she would have been recognized by others. Clark says, I don't think she would have been recognized necessarily. She was in secluded areas. I really don't know, ? But wait, didn't you say, was she jogging one of the times? I forgot what you said. And one time she was with young children. Is that what you said? South to West says, the coincidence stacks in this case are incredible. Yeah, they sure are. I mean, why is there DEA activity in this small hamlet in the middle of nowhere, Haverhill, New Hampshire? Why is there U.S. Marshal activity? We went over all this. Like, the people who think that she just went away to commit suicide, like, what is going on with all this upper agency involvement? Like, if it's that simple, why didn't they release the liquor store footage? I mean, if it's all really that simple, I mean, none of this makes any sense if she's simply going away to commit suicide. There's clearly something else going on here. Whether or not that's also true, I mean, we don't know, but to hallucinate that that's the only thing that could be going on, I mean, that's for the Dunning-Kruger crowd. We're not going to do that here on Mindshock. We're all about logic here. We're not going to fall for these silly logical fallacies. Okay. So, yeah, let's go over... I mean, there's so much to go over here. Did we go over... I'm not 100% sure... Let's see here. So there's an image here. All right, let's go over this here. There were some images released of the Saturn that I'm not sure we went over yet. Just give me a second here. Okay. Actually, maybe we did go over them on the previous live Q&A. I'll just bring them up real quick here before we get to Rener. So this is a relatively newly released image here. would a tree cause this kind of damage, or even a snowbank? I don't know. And then, of course, like, the car had been sitting outside for years, not really handled as evidence. And was it John Smith? As soon as John Smith said he would take the car, all of a sudden they put it on lockdown. So, yeah, I mean, just the behavior of the Popo in this case is some of the most unusual I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, this is quite unusual. And of course, we do not have any definitive evidence. I mean, we'll see what's in the UMass police reports, the new released ones. I haven't seen any evidence she left the UMass area. Is there any verifiable evidence the Saturn was even at the parking lot that particular weekend? Was it moved earlier? I mean, we'll see what's in the new files here. Pinto Sack says maybe she's part of one big psyop led by Bill Rausch. Well, Bill Rausch, coincidentally, trained in psychological operations, and his whereabouts, for whatever reason, can't be nailed down. He brags about leaving the country without permission, and there's actually gullible goofs out there that think he couldn't have made it to UMass without permission. So he can leave the entire country without permission. I mean, it's just crazy. All right, so let's get to James Renner here. Let's see here. There's so many details on this case. This is actually the most covered case on Mindshock thus far. We went over Jeff Williams' statement. We know where she was and what she was doing, but that's all I'll say. So there was another theory, I forget where I read this, probably on Reddit, that Williams did stop by the scene, but he did not encounter Maura, and then he left. I don't know if we went over that theory before. So he was not responsible. He was driving drunk or whatever, and he did stop by that scene, but by that point, nobody was there. No man smoking a cigarette, no Maura, nobody. But yeah, that's a weird statement. So let's get to James Renner, the one and only. If YouTube will allow me to put this video up, YouTube being quite glitchy tonight. What the? This is so weird. Alright. This is really bizarre. Huh. Okay, maybe it will not let me play the video. This is so dumb. I do not get it. This is really, really bizarre. Okay. Alright. Yeah, this is dumb. I just... It does not want me to play this James Renner video. Does not make any sense. Review. Okay. Alright. Yeah, this is really dumb. I have no idea why it's being so dumb. Okay, I got it. I'll put it on the screen now.
Hey there, true crime addicts. It's me, James Renner. Hey, I've got another update in the Maura Murray case. This is, I don't know that I'm. Hey there, true crime addict. Hey there, true crime habit, but there's a big piece of information that I want to go over in the Maura Murray case. About a year ago, the police department at the University of Massachusetts Amherst released a pretty much all of their records on the case. And at the time I was taking a break from reporting on this case. I was finishing up some other projects, but I kept waiting for people to report on this and report because there's some really interesting information that came out in these reports. And it really wasn't covered. A couple people touched on it, but there was some misinformation. Some things were not talked about that were in this report. So I want to give a full accounting of what's actually in these documents. There's about 36 pages here, and I want to go over it step by step. I'm not going to go over every single little bit, but the highlights. It's still going to be a lot. So thanks for joining me. We're getting back into the case a little bit. Maura Murray, as you know, let me just give you the brief summary. Nursing student, University of Massachusetts Amherst, Amherst, as they say, or you could call it the zoo. This is the February of 2004. She emails her professor, says there's been a death in the family. Hold my work till the end of the week. As you know, she buys liquor. She empties her bank account, only about $280. Drives into the White Mountains of New Hampshire, gets into a crashes her car into a snowbank, and between the time of the accident and when the police arrive, about 7 minutes window, very short window, she disappears, never to be seen again. Now, that's the very short summary. If you follow the case, you know it's a rabbit hole, and it will take you any direction you want to go. They still have never found the body. Everything's on the table, from abduction to murder to dying, being exposed to the elements in the woods somewhere, to starting a new life. At one time, I was very certain she started a new life. I've kind of switched from like being about 60% certain that she had to about 60% certain that she was murdered by someone she knew. The one thing that I have become certain of over the years researching this case, I am convinced she was traveling with a tandem driver. And this driver that she was traveling with was the one that picked her up, and they went on to a destination. So I think we were looking at the wrong place and the wrong time if we're trying to figure out what happened to Maura Murray. And there is some circumstantial evidence in these reports that kind of back up my idea of a tandem driver, but we'll get there. Let's jump into these reports. So again, about 36 pages was released from the University of Massachusetts Police Department. This begins with a narrative from a police officer named Brian Kellogg. I'm going to read you some excerpts. So Maura disappears on February 9th. This begins the next day. On February 10th, during the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, I took a phone call from, and again, one of the reasons I'm going through this info is a lot of it was redacted. And so knowing the case as I do, I kind of know and have figured out some parts of what has been redacted. And it begins right here because they've redacted a name, and this is almost certainly Tim Carpenter that they're talking about, who was Maura's brother-in-law. He was married to Kathleen Murray, who has since passed. I will say this too. I'm going to put this document up on my website.
So there's quite a few stories regarding Tim Carpenter. Tim Carpenter, he's actually one of the. There's quite a few things that just never really made sense in this case. Tim Carpenter is one of those things. So Tim Carpenter married to Kathleen Murray. There were some certain statements made. There were witnesses who overheard Kathleen and Tim saying certain things during the searches. It's just pretty weird. It's pretty weird. And I don't know what to think of this guy right here. What the heck? Man, we're having a lot of technical issues tonight for some reason. Someone does not want this Maura Murray case being discussed. This is so weird. What is going on? It's like not superimposing images. That is weird, man. Okay, so that's the only image it will let me put up. Okay. So, Tim Carpenter here. There's just. I mean, I don't even know where to start here because there's so many issues here. Let's see. Let me see, actually, if I have this particular clip on Carpenter. So keep in mind, Tim Carpenter drove a red truck with Massachusetts plates. A red truck with Massachusetts plates was seen leaving the Swiftwater store a mile from the alleged accident, from the staged accident scene. So, what's curious, everybody forgot about this 17 magazine article. I think now's a good time to bring it back. And let me guess, YouTube's not going to want me to put it on the screen. 1 second. Man, YouTube, this is getting tiresome. Alright, let's see if I can get it. Okay. I will prevail. So here it is. Presented for the first time since I initially went over it on one of the early episodes. Let's see. Okay. Alright. I should be able to get it on the screen. There might be some curiosities here worth exploring. The article is called Girl Still Missing. And here we go. So this was in the... Oh, man, this is so slow. Okay. So this is... We got a date here, February 2004, so wow. Pretty early on. So what kind of information is here right at the beginning of the case? Route 112 near Haverhill, New Hampshire has lots of twists and turns. None are quite as wicked as the 90-degree swerve across from the weathered bar at a dilapidated former antique store. Around 7:30 p.m., February 9, 2004, Maura, 21, found out just how difficult it can be to navigate that turn when she completely missed it. Or did she? We actually went over a lot of the logistics. From the accident reconstruction experts, I'm not going to go over all of that now. But apparently there was some kind of issue like 100 yards beyond the turn, not the turn itself. So, what's curious here is... What's really curious here is, so... Atwood saw the police pull up to Maura's car. When they looked inside, they found an open can of Sky Blue malt liquor in the front seat. In the back was a suitcase filled with clothes, a stuffed monkey, and a diamond necklace that her boyfriend Bill Rouch had given to her, 2 textbooks, and another book, Not Without Peril, an account of people who died climbing New Hampshire's Mount Washington, bookmarked at a chapter titled A Question of Life and Death. Now, is that too on the nose? I mean, I don't know. So, here, again, it's saying she didn't tell her friends or family. So... Okay. Apparently, Maura did write a note to her boss at the campus art gallery before she took off. In it, she said she had a family emergency. And again, there apparently was no email to UMPD, campus security, where she worked the security desk. So again, speculation. Did she get fired that previous Thursday? What was going on with the breakdown? Okay. So... Okay, let's see here. So Maura had called her older sister Kathleen, 26, at around 10:20 p.m. During a quiet patch at Maura's second job manning a dorm security desk, I was telling her all this about a fight I'd had with my fiance, said Kathleen. Maura kept saying, don't worry, he's a good guy, it'll work out. After they got off the phone, Maura was sitting at her desk doing her job. Then, according to police reports, she inexplicably burst into tears in front of a coworker and wouldn't say why. All right, so let's continue here. Let's see what kind of gems are contained here. Some kind of keys to solving the case here, possibly. Two days later, Saturday, February 7th, Maura's dad drove up to Amherst to help Maura buy a new car. Maura and her father spent the day at the car dealerships and then hit the Amherst Brewing Company for grilled chicken salads. That's oddly specific. At 10 p.m., her dad wanted to call it a night, so... Well, what's kind of curious is, like, Kate Markopoulos is noticeably... Alright, wait, hold on. Let's see. Okay, so... Yeah, it doesn't say Kate was with them at Amherst Brewing Company. So in other accounts, Fred said that Maura made him go pick up Kate. Then there was another account where Kate Markopoulos met them there, and in this account, it doesn't mention her at all. Maura and her father spent the day at car dealerships, then hit Amherst Brewing for chicken salads. At 10 p.m., her dad wanted to call it a night, so he had Maura drop him off at his motel, then drive herself to the dorm in his car. About an hour later, Maura arrived at her friend Sarah Alfieri's dorm room to hang out. For the next 3 hours, Maura, Sarah, and a couple of friends sat around talking and listening to music while drinking sky blue malt mixed with a little bit of wine. A couple times, when there were pauses in the conversation, Maura mentioned that she wanted to return the car to her dad that night. Quote, it didn't make any sense, says Kate Markopoulos, who was there. Why would Maura, who'd had a few drinks and seemed tired, go to the trouble of driving all the way to her dad's motel in the middle of the night when she didn't need to? At 2:30 a.m., Maura left Sarah's room telling everyone she was going upstairs to her room, but instead, she got in her dad's car and started driving back to his motel. On the highway, the car jumped a sandy embankment and hit a guardrail. I don't think that's quite a highway. The front of the car's radiator crumpled, so Maura called AAA to tow the car. The police arrived and wrote up a report, but didn't give Maura a ticket. Also curious, no mention of the any kind of cadet here. When Maura told her father about the accident the next morning, he was upset. The first thing I asked was, are you all right, he says. As Fred Murray called garages, Maura sat there crying. She kept repeating, I'm sorry, over and over, he says. I think she felt like she had really let me down. At 2 p.m., Murray dropped a still teary-eyed Maura off at her dorm in a rental car. I said, Maura, it will get fixed. Don't worry, he says. Then Maura got out and her dad drove away. Desperate search. Next day, February 9th, New Hampshire police arrived at the scene of Maura's second accident, the one on Route 112, or alleged accident. The police, fire department, and local residents searched the area roads for her. They also left a message for the Murray family to let them know that there had been an accident. When Maura didn't turn up the next day, the police called again and told them she was missing. Fred Murray drove up to New Hampshire and got a room at the Wells River Motel near the accident site. As the police continued their search, Murray, along with the rest of the family and Maura's boyfriend, combed the area too. I can't explain how it feels to be walking up an embankment thigh-deep in snow, and then there's a big hill in front of you, and you have to walk up it because you see footprints in the snow, and you might find your sister's body at the end, says Kathleen. 2 days after Maura's disappearance, dogs had tracked her scent. Well, again, that's not accurate. The scent from gloves she may or may not have worn. And whoever was in the car, it would have had their scent as well if they handled those particular gloves. To the road about 100 yards away from the site, her family thought that maybe someone had picked Maura up, so they printed up 15,000 flyers with her picture, and a crew of volunteers began tacking them to every signpost and gas station within 50 miles. But weeks went by and no one came forward. So the Murrays are still searching for Maura. Questions remain. There is still no sign of Maura. The only thing that makes sense is that a bad guy got her, says her dad. But police disagree. Quote, there is no evidence that she was abducted. end quote, says New Hampshire State Police Sergeant Thomas York. Have we heard from York before? I don't remember that name. Police have told newspapers that they suspect Maura intended to kill herself, but they've reached no conclusion. So this is in the official 17 magazine article. Quote, as far as we're concerned, she's a missing person, end quote, says York. Maura's crying along with her atypical drinking. Her family and friends say she wasn't a drinker. And the 2 car accidents, or possibly one, or possibly none, if she wasn't even driving in the Hadley one. I mean, who knows who was driving? Was it the cadet? Just before she disappeared, raises the question of whether she was buckling under some emotional pain. Quote, I don't know what could have been going on that she didn't tell me about, says Bill. As far as I knew, everything was fine, end quote. Everything was so fine that he's going across the country and bringing his parents and his West Point professor and his wife for a DUI walk-away. Because if everything's fine, I mean, it's kind of weird. I may go to my grave never knowing where she's gone or why she even left school, says her father. And as far as I can tell, no one else knows either. So pretty sad. But apparently here the quote was, I was telling her all about this fight I'd had with my fiance, says Kathleen. So Kathleen said that she told Maura she had a fight with Tim Carpenter. So what does that mean? Clark, I will get to Rener and what he reported in these newly released files, but there was no mention of an email to campus security early on. There was an email to professors and possibly the art gallery. Noticeably absent from any previous report, so we'll see what's in any new reports. Clark says, I find it interesting that Tim Carpenter made the initial contact with UMass police. All right, hold on a second. Let's get caught up here. Bama Dog Mom says, just getting here, I'm behind, but wanted to say the very first time I ever looked into this case, I thought it was weird that her dad was hanging out with her and her friends, drinking and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, apparently, I mean, some people do that with their 20-year-old, 1-year-old children and their friends. I actually knew some people like that. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, sort of, maybe, kind of depends, I guess, I don't know. So Clark says, I find it interesting that Tim Carpenter made the initial contact with UMass police the day of Maura's disappearance. Pinto Sack says, wasn't it just once that he hung out with and drank with Maura Murray and Kate? I don't know. Pinto Sack says, I hear Bruce collects 17 magazines. Don't forget Tiger Beat. Pinto Sack asks, how did she not get a DUI? Good question. Maybe she wasn't driving. Maybe it was the cadet. So Clark says, wasn't the fight between Tim and Kathleen related to Tim coaxing Kathleen out of rehab? So here's the thing. There's another rumor. That okay, hold on a second here. I had another rumor up here. Okay. So, episode 22 of Tim and Lance podcasts. Supposedly, there's a reference. There's some kind of a reference that Kathleen and Tim Carpenter were being threatened by an ex girlfriend that Tim Carpenter owed money to. So that was the other rumor. Now, what's kind of curious, and yes, Tim Carpenter drove Kathleen to Maura's dorm room the day after she went missing. Okay, so, I mean, there's so many issues here. I mean, there's just so many issues. I mean, this really is one of the most baffling cases ever. There's just so much going on with so many people, so many different stories, so many different rabbit holes. Is this Jessica C? I wonder if Jessica C has a connection to Tim Carpenter. And then you have the criminal Aldrich brothers involved in a lot of stuff. So if this rumor is true, I mean, how did Maura get involved with Kathleen and Tim Carpenter? If there was some issue with Jessica C. Now, here, it's going to get even crazier. So, Fred Murray also corroborated the Jeremy Rathbone account in the fact that it was made. Not that it's true, but in the fact that a man named Jeremy Rathbone claimed to have seen a man wearing a mask disposing of a blanket, a bundle blanket, that was believed to be a decaying cadaver from his truck. He called the man Stinkface due to the overwhelming odor coming from the truck. Jeremy Rathbone gave a positive ID of this individual being Tim Carpenter to Fred Murray. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, people. So we have the Rathbone account, which everybody is pretty much swept under the rug, but Fred Murray corroborated that it existed, that someone said this, that Rathbone said this and ID'd Tim Carpenter. Now, whether it's true or not, that's a different story, but this isn't just something that was written online. You want to get really crazy, then you get into the A-frame, and, you know, the bloody knife turned into the police. I mean, it just gets really crazy with that stuff. But let's keep it to Carpenter for now. I'm going to see if I can find the clip of the Rathbone account I had. I don't really want to go over the entire thing again, but Just give me a second to bring that info up. Okay. Also, keep in mind, police did collect Kathleen Murray's DNA. So this would have been around September 2017. Which is weird, but okay. So, there's also this Benjamin Wynn individual. Some people think he's Jeremy Rathbun. So, there was a post here. This was on Facebook. Tim Carpenter owned a red truck. Tim Carpenter cleaned out her dorm room 2 days after her disappearance, kept her belongings in his basement. In June 2004, the family asked him to return it. He burned it instead. And the same person who was spotted by Warren Lake in New Hampshire, where Carpenter owned a boat with a foul-smelling bundle in his red truck, April 2004, and the family wanted to take cadaver dogs to the property the Carpenter family owned, they would not let them. I never found out if the New Hampshire State Police ever searched his property, polygraphed him, or did forensic testing on his truck. So Benjamin Wynn is claiming this. That Tim Carpenter actually had a boat at Warren Lake and his family had a property near there, and they denied searches. That's curious. Alright, let's bring up a map here. Let's bring up a map here. Alright, here's the Londonderry map with the Londonderry ping. Supposedly Jessica C. or some other track associate could have been there. So, Warren Lake. Let's see where Warren Lake is in relation to Keene here. Alright. So it's somewhere around here. Warren Lake is somewhere around here, about halfway between Goshen and Keene. Goshen's where that previous New Year's party was. So this is quite the distance from North Haverhill. I kind of remember. Alright, hold on a second. Alright, I think it might have actually been in episode 8, Alden Olson, where I might have went over the Rathbun account. Let's see here. Or maybe not. Let's see. Oh, perhaps no. Oh, that was maybe part 10. Or not part 10 either. Where was the part? Part 9. Yeah, it was part 9. Part 9 was the Rathbun account. Okay, so this was in Warren, New Hampshire. So let's see if is Warren next to Warren Lake. Okay, yeah. So Warren is a completely different area. So I don't know if Brandon Wynn or whatever this guy's name is got that wrong. Yeah, because Warren, there's a few small lakes in this area too, but Warren is much closer to the accident scene. So Warren would be, let's see where exactly it is. It's somewhere around here, so it's a lot closer to the accident scene. Yeah, that sounds a lot. That sounds more correct. So this sighting would have been near a trail. So this was the Facebook claim that someone found clothes that may have been Maura's, navy blue sweatshirt with MM in permanent marker on the tag, champion socks, etc. near a trail in Warren, New Hampshire, and a red truck was nearby. The driver was acting oddly, refused to make eye contact, feigning like reaching for a gun when approached. That's weird. The clothes were also found in an area of a bare barrel with reddish brown liquid in it. Supposedly, these items were reported to the local police along with the plate number. But this was never properly followed up on. When asked about this claim, the person deleted the initial comment. Huh. So the area this particular area was supposedly searched. So October of 06, it was searched. So I don't know if there's two different stories here. One in Warren Lake. Okay, hold on. Yeah, there's two different stories here. There's also two different Warrens. So there's also Lake Tarleton in New Hampshire. Oh man, as if this wasn't confusing enough. Wow. Okay, so it looks like two stories got mixed up here. So Lake Tar is right next to Warren. They're both in this area. And then there's Warren Lake down here near Goshen, halfway between Goshen and Keene. So in this area is Lake Tar. So this is Jeremy Rathbun. He said this happened along Lake Tarleton in New Hampshire. And supposedly there was a follow-up with dogs here. This is 2006. Fred Murray supposedly was there as well, no solid hits. There was also a spring, so that was 2006. There's also a spring 2004 incident in Warren, Massachusetts. Huh. So the 2004 incident is Tim Carpenter hunting and disposing materials on a logging road. Now, there might be some relation between these two incidents as well. Yeah, I mean, this is really confusing, but that's where... Okay, so that's where we're at right now. So, okay, so April 2004, this is the Warren, Massachusetts sighting. So these might be related. Now, another coincidence is that Warren, Massachusetts is where Molly Bish was killed. John Smith, I remember John Smith actually mentioning that there could be some kind of relation between the cases, but I don't know. Unless I got that wrong. So, this is all very curious, though. Because that Rathbun sighting, so there's two incidents, an 04 and an 06 incident. Warren, Massachusetts, and Warren, New Hampshire. There's also Londonderry, Vermont, Londonderry, New Hampshire. I mean, this case is crazy. I could totally see why so many PIs just checked out of this case. Clark asks, was the money Fred withdrew for Tim Carpenter? He gave it to Maura to give to Tim. That's an interesting question. Pinto Sack says, yeah, the cash withdrawals from Fred never made sense. Stopping at numerous ATMs, he couldn't have just gone to a bank. Oh, that's interesting. Clark says, did Maura manipulate Fred with the car issue to get money for her getaway? Or was Fred just a caring father trying to help his daughter deal with a broken car? Or was she playing up the car situation to get the money, pretending it was for the car, but not for her own getaway, but to give to Kathleen to help out with Tim Carpenter? Could that have been it? Clark, we didn't get to the hospital ID yet. We'll get there. I just wanted to go back to this Rathbun sighting of Tim Carpenter because I think it might be very, very relevant here. But let's continue with Rener here.
MauraMurrayMystery.com, so you can read it at your leisure and tell me what you think. So anyways, I took a phone call from Tim Carpenter that stated he was the brother-in-law to a student named Maura, who lived out of 415 Kennedy. That's the dorm. Tim stated that the Haverhill, New Hampshire Police Department had found Murray's car on the previous night. When the car was found, she was not inside. Tim was asking if the UMass Police Department could go into her room in Kennedy and perform a well-being check, as they'd not been able to reach her all day. When I got off the phone, I called Haverhill, New Hampshire PD and spoke with Sergeant Smith. Now, that would be Cecil Smith, who was the first on the scene after the accident. Smith has since died by suicide, and the conspiracy theorists love to jump on that and point fingers at him, which is heartbreaking because I met Cecil Smith, and he was one of the nicest people I encountered during my reporting, just a nice guy. He was suffering from early dementia, Alzheimer's, and that was likely the reason he took his life when he did. I asked Sergeant Smith what happened. Smith stated that on the previous night he responded to a motor vehicle accident. The vehicle belonged to Maura's father, Fred. The vehicle had collided with a tree. Now, this is relayed in the report. Cecil wasn't there at the time of the accident. I think at the beginning they kind of assumed it was a tree. We know now she probably didn't hit a tree. It's likely she hit the corner snowbank on the other side, and that's what caused the damage to her vehicle. The doors were all locked. No one was around. Smith stated that there was wine all over the dash and ceiling. There were also bottles of beer, and that's going to become important here, bottles of beer and a box of wine still inside the car. Smith stated that no one was found in or near the vehicle. With the information I obtained, I informed another sergeant of the situation. Officer Johnson was sent to Kennedy dorm to perform a well-being check. At this point, Officer Johnson took over the case. And then we get his report. In an attempt to gather more information about Murray's whereabouts, Murray's computer was signed on. This is when he gets into the room. He went into the room. Maura's computer was signed on to its America Online Instant Messenger account. That's what she used to communicate with a lot of friends back then. Everybody was on AOL at that moment. This is before we had smartphones and texting was a huge thing. I removed the away message that had been posted earlier by the UMass Police Detective Bureau. I was immediately messaged by several of Maura's friends from her hometown wondering if she was okay. I informed everyone that I was not Maura and that I was a police officer for UMass. While receiving these messages, I began to speak with one person who identified herself as, and I believe here the redacted part is Maura's sister. I asked her if she had spoke to any law enforcement yet. She stated she had not. I asked her if it could be possible for her to call me, and then she did. Through my questioning, this sister stated that Maura had attended West Point, and while at West Point, she was, and then that's redacted. I asked if Maura would ever consider suicide or harming herself in any way. She said that she had seen her sister at her worst, another redaction, and that if she reached a low like that, she would, meaning she could see her committing suicide. And you'll see this reflected in these reports a couple times. Members of Maura's family saying that she could, in fact, be suicidal. They could see that happening. That goes against what they have said publicly since then. Fred has made a point to say he did not say she was suicidal. We will see in these reports that that is not true. She stated that she had last seen Maura at Christmas, and that it was obvious to her that Maura had been dealing with her, and this is redacted, but based on the context clues, we know they're talking about Maura's disordered eating. She suffered from bulimia. There would be, and this comes up a lot in here, there would be episodes of purging. She stated she knew from looking at Maura that she had been blank again. Corners of her mouth were red and dry. She also stated that if Maura was going to commit suicide, that going to the mountains in New Hampshire would be a possible place she would try. She stated that their family had hiked in the White Mountains of New Hampshire since they were kids. Maura loved it there. I then informed the sister that UMass detectives had located several conversations that were saved on the computer between Maura and a couple of friends via instant messaging. Only one of the screen names used in the conversations had been identified by UMass detectives as Maura's boyfriend, Bill Rausch. Most of the conversations in these AOL chats were about problems between Maura and her boyfriend. I asked the sister if she knew any problems between Maura and her boyfriend. She stated that there were none that she was aware of. I informed her that the conversations had been saved. Only the screen name of the boyfriend had been identified. I asked her if there was a possibility she may know some of the other names, stated that she may know, and I read her the screen names. She recognized one, and this person's name is redacted. She stated that the screen name belonged to one of Maura's close friends when she attended West Point. She was not positive about the last name, but stated it sounded like, that's also redacted, and that he attended West Point in 2000 and 2001. I'm particularly interested in that little piece due to everything we've learned about Cadet Stefan Finkelstein, who later changed his name 8 months after Maura went missing to Stephen Baldwin. He's in prison in Ohio. If you've missed that story, go back and listen to it. But Stefan was at West Point until 2001. We know who was ever talking to her had attended West Point in 2000 and 2001 like him. Not to say that that necessarily 100% was Stefan, but it's interesting. Okay, and the report goes on. On the above date and time, and this name's redacted, phoned the station and asked to speak with an officer. When I picked up the line, in this one we realize he's talking about Fred Murray, because he stated that his daughter, Maura, who's attending UMass, had been involved in an accident and was missing. Fred stated that his daughter had been depressed and that he believed that she was trying to kill herself. So not only did he tell the detectives in New Hampshire, but according to this report, Fred said that directly to the police at UMass. He stated that when the officers in Haverhill found her vehicle, there was a large amount of alcohol, but she was nowhere to be found. Fred stated that the last person he knew who had contact with her was a friend on the track team named, and I believe that would be Kate Markopoulos. Now, a couple of these names are going to be important. This goes back to that Saturday night before Maura disappeared, where she went out with Kate Markopoulos and her father to a brewery, and then later on they went to a party in the dorm room of a girl named Sarah Alfieri. So Maura, Sarah, and Kate were at this party. There's a lot of speculation about what might have happened there. We know that Maura hooked up with a boy that night. We know that her boyfriend, Bill Rausch, found out about it later by accessing her voicemail. So this is kind of getting to that. I told him that there was no way of identifying, track team named Kate Markopoulos and had the number of the track coach but could not get through. Shortly thereafter, Officer Kellogg received a call from Haverhill PD wondering if maybe Maura had returned to campus. The on-call RD was called, and Detective Black and I went to room 415 Kennedy to do a well-being check. Upon entering the room, we noticed that Maura had packed up all of her belongings as if she were moving out. Now, a lot of speculation has been made about this. People are saying that, oh, she just didn't unpack from Christmas break. I've never believed that as an explanation. The officers certainly believe she was leaving, and other people did too. We're going to get that in a second. There was nothing else in the room showing that she had been there recently. We spoke with the residents of the room next door, who stated that they had not seen her since Saturday. A while later, Jeff Skinner from Student Security came down to state that there may be a problem with one of their employees, Maura Murray. One of the other employees had been contacted by Maura's father. This is when they hear about the story. He stated that this is a girl now. She stated that she last talked to Maura on Saturday. Maura never said anything to her that would make her believe she was depressed or that she was leaving. She also stated she was surprised that Maura had driven her car. She said that Maura was having problems with her car and that she would not even take it to the grocery store. And yet she drives an hour and a half or so into the White Mountains of New Hampshire. What was so important that she had to get up there? They were both asked if Maura was a heavy drinker. They stated that she drank socially, but no more than the average college student. Put a pin in that. When I asked what types of alcohol she liked, they stated that she mostly drank wine. I then asked her if she ever drank beer. She stated that Maura didn't really like the taste of beer and doesn't really drink it. Remember, they found a 12-pack of Labatt Blue inside the car. Was that for Maura, or did she buy it for the tandem driver? Did she buy it for somebody she was going to meet up there? I then spoke with Maura's supervisor. She stated that on Thursday night at approximately 10 p.m., Maura received a phone call which made her very upset. She stated that all she could understand was that Maura said, quote, "I shouldn't be upset, it's my sister," end quote, then walked back to her dorm. Now, we've always assumed and we were told that phone call was with Kathleen Murray when Maura is referring to her sister. Put a pin in that as well. That was the last time she had spoken with her. Skinner then retrieved an email that Maura had sent to her supervisor. We're getting to that email, and we've had various explanations as to what that email said. Here's it directly. In the email, which was written February 9th at, this would be 13:26 hours, so that would be 1:26 p.m., Maura said that she was going home for a week and could not work due to a death in the family. This is the first time I've heard that Maura said in that email she was going home. I called Maura's brother, and this must be Fred Jr., back and asked him, or maybe he's talking about Tim, actually. Anyways, he called Maura's brother back and asked him if there had been a death in the family. He stated that there had not been a death or any other tragedy in the family and could not understand why she had written that. I then asked him about the upsetting phone call that was about her sister. He stated that he could not think of anything that would be upsetting. He stated that one sister was in the service overseas, that would be Julie, and the other sister was with them and they could not think of anything. After speaking with, this is redacted, somebody called to speak with me. I asked her if she remembered the last time she saw Maura. She stated that she saw her in the early afternoon. She was at the water fountain, and Maura passed by with a box of wine, a backpack, and a large hockey bag. She stated that she could hear glass bottles clanking together in the hockey bag and assumed Maura was just returning bottles. I then asked if she had any idea if Maura was moving out of the dorm. She stated she did not, nor did any of the resident life staff. She also stated that during the semester, Maura has always seemed to be alone. She also stated that Maura never uses the bathroom on the floor that she lived on, but instead goes to the 5th floor to use a private bathroom. I then contacted Cecil Smith of Haverhill. I asked him if he had found a hockey bag, a backpack, and a box of wine in the vehicle. He said that he found all of the items except for the backpack. That backpack is missing. He also stated that there was that 12-pack of Labatt Blue in the vehicle as well. Jump down a little bit here. On February 21st, so now we're a week or so, what is that? 21. So what is that? 12 days since the disappearance. February 21st, this person came to UMass Police Department as part of the investigation of his missing daughter. So we're talking about Fred. Fred came to UMass. As part of that visit, Fred went with myself and Lieutenant Thrasher to Maura's room. All parties put on gloves before entering the room. While in the room, Fred was not surprised by the neatness of the packing. He said that raising his children mostly by himself, I believe Maura and her siblings lived with their mother, which it's kind of a weird thing. Anyways, he said that raising his children mostly by himself, he had a, quote, clean as you go policy, end quote. If you used a dish, you cleaned it right after. Mr. Murray also seemed to become a little withdrawn after the viewing, stating that by seeing the room, he now knew that Maura was, quote, not coming back to UMass, end quote. Later on, I called Fred and asked for consent to enter his daughter's room to look for clues that may assist in locating her. Fred said, yes, of course, please, anything you can do. At 9:45, Area Coordinator Gay Reinhold keyed the room, and Officer Roberts and I searched for clues. As reported earlier, the personal belongings in the room were packed as if the occupant was prepared to move out of the dorm. Also, I should say this is a little piece that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but that I discovered during the course of my reporting. This comes from a source that was working closely with Fred at the time, who said, is like a private investigator type of guy. He said that they discovered Maura had been submitting applications to bars closer to home, back towards UMass, or back towards Hanson, the Hanson, Mass area. That she was applying for jobs as if she was leaving college. Anyways, back here. I photographed the room using a Sony digital camera. Those images are included with this report. Nothing was revealed by a search of her personal belongings about where Maura was traveling to, but Officer Roberts discovered email instant messages on her computer that indicated she was upset about learning her boyfriend Bill Rausch had cheated on her. Those instant messages were copied on a floppy disk and printed out upon returning to the station. I notified Chief Williams, back in Haverhill, of these emails and faxed them to him. He informed me that his department is being assisted by New Hampshire State Police, and he has scheduled an appointment to re-interview Bill Rausch. Because Bill Rausch had previously indicated to Williams that there was no strain in his relationship with Maura Murray. As we know about Bill, though, very good about lying. If you want to know more about that, look into the report I did concerning these women in D.C. that accused him of sexual assault, sexual harassment. He was charged with a felony. He got that pled down to misdemeanor, and when he was charged with the felony, was stalking his mistress. So it's a mess. Later on, called Chief Williams to verify he had received the message about the outdated emails. He's talking about these emails about finding out that Bill had cheated on her, and whether they considered a motive for Maura's leaving. He was grateful for the information and was re-interviewing Bill and Fred later this morning. He stated a 20-mile grid search of the area was being conducted. Hadley, this is a note that says Hadley Quality Inn. This is a hotel outside of UMass. So the detective at UMass is following up on the events leading up to Maura's disappearance. He knows Fred Murray, her father, stayed at the Hadley Quality Inn. So he calls Hadley Quality Inn to get some records. Received check and receipts for Fred Murray. Dates February 7th, and he reserved the room for 2 nights for 2 adults. He also reserved rooms for the previous November 21st. He had visited Hadley. He reserved that for 1 night for 2 adults. He was there 2 weeks before that, November 7th, 2003. Again, 1 night, 2 adults. February 21st, 2003, 2 nights, 2 adults. The manager stated the same young woman, meaning Maura Murray, had stayed with Fred each time he stayed at the hotel. She also stated that it was not unusual for the hotel to have parents and college-age children staying together. This call to North Amherst Motors photoed they had a car. This has to do with the car Maura crashed in Hadley. So that night of the party, Saturday before she disappeared, she crashed her father's car in Hadley just outside the university. Photos incorporated in this report. They had not begun repairs yet on Fred's car because there was a question about whether the insurance would cover the cost since Maura was not on the policy. That might have been a source of some frustration at the very least. The insurance company, though, later determined they would cover the cost because of the circumstances, meaning Maura's disappearance. He also received a log receipt, which is included in this case file. Here we go. Here's a witness statement from Matt Clark, the third floor resident RA of Kennedy Dorm. He track team member. He last saw Maura February 6th around 2 o'clock. And at that time, Maura was upset because someone had stolen her bag. There's a witness statement from another track team member stated Maura became quite a different person when she drank alcohol beverages. This is starting to go against that narrative that we were told that Maura didn't really have a drinking problem. Here's a report from Detectives Kidwell or Avik and I met the track teams with coaches at Curry Hicks Cage. We had arranged to meet there because she had not responded to our many attempts to contact her. I believe they're talking about Kate Markopoulos here. They had arranged to meet with Kate Markopoulos because she had not responded to our many attempts to contact her. Again, this goes against that narrative that have been put out by the official places that Kate had been forthcoming from the very beginning, that she had spoken to police immediately and was very cooperative. I've known that that was not true, and it's good to see that reflected in this report. And we're going to get to why. The track team was leaving for a meet. Detective Kidwell and I interviewed Kate in a closed office. She was visibly upset before the interview started and became more emotional as we progressed. She stated she had no idea Maura was preparing to leave or what was bothering her. She denied that Maura drank alcohol much, any more than any college student, or had any behavioral changes when she drank. Kate knows for a fact that is not true. And I don't want to even go into some of the reports of what happened with the track team and after hours and drinking, but that is not true. I asked Kate to detail the events of Friday night before Maura drove to New Hampshire. She stated Maura's dad, Fred, Maura, and herself went to Liquors 44 at about 2100 hours. So what is that, about 9 o'clock? Bought a box of wine, and Maura bought some too, but Kate didn't know what... anyways, she's talking about the brewing company. At around 11:30 that night, they dropped Fred off at the Quality Inn and took his car back to the dorm area. They entered Coolidge Dorm. That's where the party was, being held in Sarah Alfieri's room. Now, Sarah worked with Maura at an art gallery on campus. That's how they knew each other. They entered the Coolidge dorm and went to Sarah's room, where she was entertaining a group including, this part's redacted, roommate, another guy and girl, and 3 other guys. So how many people is that? Entertaining a group including Sarah, Kate, Maura, her roommate, and her roommate also is not talking. I've tried for years. Another guy and girl and 3 other guys. So now we finally have a number. Everybody in that room, Sarah and Kate, have said they don't remember how many people were there or what their names were. There were 9. 9 people at that party. At around 1:30 a.m., Kate and Maura wanted to leave, so the 3 boys offered to walk with them. Kate stated they walked the short distance to Kennedy Dorm from Coolidge Dorm, which is only about 100 feet. I didn't realize they were that close. Maura entered the lobby with one of the boys, while Kate walked back to Coolidge with the others. Kate stated she does not know who these boys are, but knows that Sarah knows the cousin of one of them. Again, this is a little different than what we were told. We were told that one of the boys was Sarah's cousin. That seems to not be true. It seems that Sarah knew one of the cousins of the boys. and Kate has not seen or heard from Maura since then. Kate became very upset during this interview. She said she was tired of answering the same questions over and over and just wanted us to find her. She was crying and said she doesn't trust the police because her father was jailed for 4 years in New York for something he didn't do. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack for including that detail in my book, True Crime Addict, when I discussed this incident with Kate's father. Obviously, it does have bearing on this case. As I suspected, it was the reason why Kate didn't want to cooperate and talk to the police.
Man, who's keeping track of all the Rener vindications here? I mean, it's like almost every single thing he's vindicated on from what he reported on. So, yeah, and of course, I mean, Kate Markopoulos, we went over the interview that was released with her, the FOIA documents or leaked documents, whatever. I went over them before, and she actually came off a lot better, to where I kind of was thinking maybe she really doesn't know anything. Maybe all of this is simply because she doesn't like the pow-pow. And also, I mean, the FBI were on the ground at UMass early on as well. We don't know exactly, who they talked to, but apparently they talked to a lot of people as well.
What happened was that, according to court records, Kate's father was building pipe bombs at his house. One of these pipe bombs showed up on the doorstep of his neighbor, and he was accused of trying to blow up his neighbor, and he went to prison for this. Now, that pipe bomb, there's really no discussion or argument about where it came from. It came from Kate's father, who's building pipe bombs in his property. Why is he doing that? Certainly doesn't sound good. Kate has always maintained that he didn't do this. He was framed. Now, it's interesting to note that neighbor had a daughter that went to school with Kate. So I don't understand. If Kate's father didn't do this, who put the pipe bomb at that house? A search of the dormitory sign-in sheets revealed, and this is where they're trying to track down the boys that were at this party. Detective Kidwell contacted one of the boys after finding his name in this report. He provided a written statement by email. The 3 boys are not UMass students. The others also subsequently provided statements. This is kind of a big deal. And these 3 gentlemen have never talked about this, at least publicly. But they certainly would have some more information about what happened at that party and what happened afterwards. I'd love to talk to them. If you have any information about this, please contact me directly, jameswrenner@gmail.com. And then they get into learning about the UMass Outing Club cabin. Now, the Outing Club cabin is in a little town called Bethlehem, New Hampshire, and if you were to go the route that Maura went and continued, you'd eventually get to that area of Bethlehem where the Outing Club cabin is. Now, in this report, the police come to the conclusion that they had somebody go and check the cabin. Nobody was in there, but the cabin was only rented out on weekends. Remember, Maura disappeared on a Monday. So they're trying to figure out if maybe she went to this Outing Club cabin, but they kind of come to the conclusion that she didn't know about it, which is false, most likely, because Maura was having an affair with her track coach, a guy named Hussein Baghdadi, who's a nice guy. He was very open with me on the phone. He's the one that confirmed their affair. And said that Maura had mentioned about running away. She had also never mentioned her father. And when Maura talked about running away, he always assumed Mexico, but he didn't know for sure. Hussein Baghdadi was a member of this outing club, would often go to the outing club cabin and hike in the White Mountains. I've always thought that maybe her destination that night could have been the outing club cabin.
So, okay, we went over Baghdadi. There's some major questions with him. I mean, I didn't really want to get into the Alden Olson theories about what is it, organ harvesting or egg harvesting for cloning or genetic engineering or whatever he was saying about Maura. But Baghdadi was kind of involved. I mean, there were actually UMass professors and researchers who actually did get busted for black market stuff at UMass. So it's not like Alden Olson puts forth theories without any receipts at all. I mean, there now whether or not that's related to Maura, that's a separate question. But the theories he proposes, I mean, there's groundwork laid there. There's precedent. Adam in the chat says Tim Carpenter's red truck didn't have wooden slats unless he removed them somehow. There's a photo of it from '04. Also, wasn't a very old model truck like the one described by R.O. His truck looked more modern for that time. Yeah, I mean, so they were stopping red trucks that night, which is also weird, because if it's a standard DUI walkaway, why are they stopping red trucks that night, according to Frank Kelly? So here's the other thing. Is it possible there was more than one red truck circling? So there was one with wooden slats, one without wooden slats? I mean, red trucks aren't that uncommon. So is it possible there was some confusion on the red trucks?
I will also say that I visited the outing club cabin. It's very easy to get into and is open during the week. Nobody's there. And at that location, I did find a copy of Not Without Peril, the same book that was in Maura Murray's car when she went missing. At first, I thought that was kind of a big clue, but I looked into the numbers, and that book has sold tens of thousands of copies, so maybe not a big deal. I received a call from Detective Russ Hubbard of New Hampshire State Police asking if we had knowledge of Maura Murray being in possession of a hospital ID card. Put a pin in that. That's going to become important later. We're going to get to why that little bit came up. And asked what hospital she and Maura went to. She informed me that Norwood Caritas in Norwood, Massachusetts was one of the hospitals, and Providence Hospital in Holyoke, Massachusetts is where she was doing some clinicals. I contacted both hospitals. They faxed me copies of ID cards of Maura, and I faxed them to Detective Hubbard. Let's go on. On February 13th, 2004, I, Detective Oravik, went to room 415. They go back into Maura's room. They check out her computer. After the imaging process was complete, the image was successfully verified. I scanned the image for viruses. This is, they're talking about the hard drive. Discovered approximately 6 Trojan horse viruses that were cleaned and deleted for the image. I performed several keyword searches. I was able to locate some hits from MapQuest.com and discovered that Maura had made inquiries for driving directions to Burlington, Vermont and 430 East Street, Lenox, Massachusetts. This has not been discussed enough, I don't think. I also located 2 searches for hotels in Burlington, Vermont. These searches were made on Monday, February 9th, the day she disappeared. Kidwell contacted all these hotels and advised them of the situation. I contacted Burlington PD, spoke to Officer Lewis and advised him of the situation, gave him a description of Ms. Murray. I also contacted Lenox PD and spoke to Officer Bill Colvin. He advised me that 430 contacted all these has not been discussed enough. 6 Trojan horse viruses that were cleaned and deleted for the image. I performed several keyword searches. I was able to locate some hits from MapQuest.com and discovered that Maura had made inquiries for driving directions to Burlington, Vermont and 430 East Street, Lenox, Massachusetts. This has not been discussed enough, I don't think. I also located 2 searches some hits from MapQuest.com and discovered that Maura had made inquiries for driving directions to Burlington, Vermont, and 430 East Street, Lenox, Massachusetts.
It's kind of unclear there. He's saying she made those searches from Lenox, Massachusetts? Let me look at the exact document here. Okay. Search. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so it looks like Maura made inquiries for driving directions to Burlington, Vermont and 430 East Street, Lenox, Massachusetts. So she made she made searches to do 2 different areas. Okay, or someone using the computer. 430 East Street, Lenox. That's kind of weird. So this is Eastover Estate and Eco Village area. So this is, or at least this is what it is now. So it's an Eco Village estate available for rentals, events, workshops, retreats, healing art services, and it also has cottages and rooms you can book. That's interesting. That's definitely interesting. So that is west of Amherst, about halfway to Albany. Huh. Kind of interesting. Completely out of the way of everywhere else, except for Springfield, Massachusetts. That's right next to Springfield, Massachusetts. There's that Springfield phone number. Oh wow, that's curious. That's curious. I'm gonna call it right here because we got so much more to go over here, and we'll pick up in the next More Murray Q&A. We'll pick up right here, and I'll do some more digging on Lenox and Springfield because it looks like that's too coincidental that this retreat is right next to Springfield. So she might have called and talked to somebody right next to the retreat and also looked up directions to the retreat. Did she have options on where she like, so if she's leaving UMass, actually, it's not next to, what the heck is going on with this map? It is not next to Springfield. It's about an hour from Springfield. What is going on here, man? My internet's really weird today. Okay. Springfield is next to Holyoke, one of the hospitals she did clinicals at. Huh. And that is not too far from Hadley and Amherst. Then you gotta go west about an hour, 40-some miles, to get to this retreat. But actually, so Springfield is on the way to the retreat if you're going down 91. Okay. I'm obviously not from that area. Okay. So, I mean, any final points here? We're definitely going to have to do a follow-up here. We got plenty more to get to, including the hospital ID and all of these things. But now we have an extra location that was searched that could be critical here. It very well could be. So, does anybody have any final points they want to make? I mean, there's just so many unanswered questions here. We have this guy who we went over. Is there a connection there? It seems like, okay, so if these actions all are her own, is she simply fielding a few different options of where to stay? I mean, there's Vermont, New Hampshire, and now Massachusetts is a viable option. She's searching for bartending jobs near her hometown. I mean, I really don't know what's going on here. Walking in 4K says, what about the random car part found inside the Saturn? Did it match any make or model SB was known to drive? That's an interesting question. I don't know if anybody's followed up on that. Did he even have... I don't think so. I think we went over either his vehicle or a vehicle he was using. I don't think it was a match. But, yeah. Clark says she was pretty much broke. How was she paying for hotel resort rental? Yeah, I mean, she withdrew whatever cash she had. Did she, if we're not trusting Fred, did Fred give her the several $1,000s, in which case she would have had some kind of cash, or is she not traveling alone, in which case the other party would have cash? We don't know. We really don't know. Walking in 4K says UMass cabin would be free if she just broke in. That's an interesting point as well. I mean, we went over the cabin. It just doesn't seem like there's enough there. So, and a lot of these places are all in opposite directions, so that's another issue. And then we still don't have an explanation for all the upper agency involvement in this hamlet in the middle of nowhere, Haverhill, New Hampshire. So, but anyway, I'll be back. We got to do the next part of this pretty soon because we got to go over all this. So either tomorrow night or the night after, we'll round out the Rener video with all of this new information. And we'll see what we can connect. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. This is Bruce McGuire, signing off.